We weren't supposed to speak machine, and I write that in my book. And why are we speaking machine if machine can speak machine and we speak human? It's a great tool. In some situations, you want your students to be fast and aided because the goal of that exercise or whatever is different. And sometimes you want them to reason for themselves. So you have to, you're the faculty, you know what the goal of your class is, what that particular session is. So basically, it should be purpose-driven.
Welcome to the CFI Faculty Lounge Podcast, an outlet created for continuous learning and actionable insights for faculty. I'm your host, Eric Magrum, inviting you to join us in conversation with dedicated educators who share their experiences, challenges, and effective solutions. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Hala Nelson, professor in the Department of Mathematics, and recently wrote a book entitled Essential Math for AI, short for Artificial Intelligence. Welcome, Hala, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
So, rolling right in, what first drew you to the field of mathematics, and how did that come into AI? And then how has your perspective on AI's role in society changed since you began your work?
These are like three big questions.
Yes.
You start really big here. What drew me to mathematics? I grew up in Lebanon, and my father is a math teacher. Lebanon is a country that has a lot of war until now. So I grew up being educated with my parents at home. And so my dad had the big influence on me. And I just loved the cleanliness of math and the reasoning. For AI, it's thinking about human behavior. All my life, thinking about what people do to each other and where that's coming from and how it relates to our intelligence as a species. So intelligence and behavior and reasoning were always related in my mind. When I got tenured and promoted to associate professor, I thought to myself, I want to do what I want now in terms of research as opposed to what my PhD advisors or postdoc mentors were working at. So I was waiting for my daughter to grow up a little, and she had. So I finally had this freedom to really do what I want, and I shifted field completely. First, it was data. I thought that it's nice to find patterns in data, everything, automation. Big data was a big thing at the time, but then the more I researched that, the more I realized that I'm more into intelligence and artificial intelligence because that's the bigger field and that's where our whole technologies are headed. So that's how I ended up there. And at the time, there was no book to teach or assign for my classes. I wanted to learn the subject by teaching a course on the subject, and I realized there was no book. So I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to write the book myself. And I didn't know at the time that AI was going to blow up. And then ChatGPT debuted, and my book went all over the world. So it was such a good timing. It went all over the world. It was translated multiple languages. I wrote another book now, AI-powered digital twins. So there was a lot that happened. I ended up on all kinds of committees. I ended up in all kinds. I founded my own company. I did so much stuff. And it was really out of curiosity about mathematics, intelligence, reasoning, automation, and how they all come together.
Fascinating how all of that coalesced into sitting here, starting your own company, writing multiple books, etc. Can you talk a little bit about, you talked about human behavior, patterning, and intelligence, and then how that, I guess a nittier grittier question, how that all coalesced into your pursuit of AI?
Yes. My pursuit of AI is more about whether intelligence is emergent or intelligence is, it's a question of can we model it mathematically, and or is it like emergent out of some enough complex enough set of neurons, and then intelligence emerges. And it's a deeper philosophical question about consciousness, whether it's out there and it's a field that underlines everything, or whether it's something that emerges out of complex enough systems mathematically. If we mathematically can do that, then that could answer some of these big existential questions. So for me, there is no difference between mathematical modeling and artificial intelligence and data-driven industries, automation, all of it. So for me, my approach in my research has always been to connect everything together, to kind of see the bigger picture while understanding like the details profoundly. So that's how it comes to me. The other thing you asked, which I think is a very nice question, I didn't answer it, is I will answer it now, is how I see AI changing society now. I see it's huge in society. I think the bigger change is coming in the next few years when there's bigger adoption. Now it's the infrastructure that's being built for AI at scale. So the adoption from the bottom up, from the people themselves, us adopting AI in our everyday life, that's already happened. But now it's the other way around. It's companies, enterprises, organizations kind of systematically deploying it in their organization, which means they'll automate so much of their work and workflows, and that could affect society at a big level, whether it's in the jobs, what jobs will stay relevant, what jobs will not. The other way AI is influencing society now, which is huge, is the economy. Like the economy now is driven by the AI infrastructure technologies. Whether it's a bubble or not, we will know soon. Whether the technology, even if it's a bubble, is here to stay, it is here to stay, and whether and how we as a humanity will, with AI among us, what we will decide to teach our children, what careers to keep, what not. So there's a huge impact to society and economy, and also races and the geopolitical environment. It's an arms race, whether it's in AI or post-quantum and all this. So it's driving so much right now, and we're in the middle of it, and we will see what happens within the next few years. My biggest shock was how fast it all happened. We all expected it to take more years for us to be here, but it's very fast.
Yeah, so there's about 8 things that I want to ask follow-up questions on. So first, when you talk about intelligence, and you talked about neurons, and then you talked about patterns, as you see intelligence, do you see intelligence as simply a pattern of neurons that leads to a certain behavior? Is that what you mean by, I guess I'm trying to connect the dots for listeners and for myself.
That's one of the questions. It is a question, but I don't see it that way for 2 reasons. One is we still, even with the success of language models that are built, they are an indicator of intelligence. Humans are different than other species because they have language, and that kind of led to a lot of advancements compared to all other species on the planet is that we have language. We evolved language, and that can be neuron based. And we've modeled it in machines, and neuron based, it was able to give us machines that are able to converse like us just based on patterns and neurons. However, we still have to explicitly model reasoning and mathematics into these machines. So these are separate. So there are books, for example, there's a book called The Math Gene. It argues that the same mechanisms that made language evolve in our brain is neurons, is the same mechanism that makes mathematical reasoning and modeling evolve as well. So it doesn't differentiate between the two. However, there's many other books with scientific research that argue that reasoning is higher and actually independent of the brain, in the sense that you can remove huge parts of the brain, basically more than half of it or more, and still have reasoning and mind. So is the mind separate than the brain, and artificially is the reasoning and the decision making and everything that defines us as a higher intelligent species, is that separate than the neurons? That's the same question. In machines, to model intelligent behavior and not just language prediction, we still have to explicitly have reasoning models, we still have causal modeling, we still have what-if scenarios, we still have decision-making models. So we still have to explicitly model those separate than the emergence of language from neurons. So until now, I see them as two different things that, when augmented, give you artificial intelligence.
Sorry, my brain is just spinning off on like 14 different things, but I'm going to try to stay on course.
Yes.
So my next follow-up to that would be, I'm going to come back to the economy, but the reasoning and critical thinking skills.
Yes.
So some might argue that artificial intelligence reduces the need to, or reduces the development of critical thinking skills. Mm-hmm. And particularly, let's say if other members of the faculty are sitting there thinking like, I don't want my students using AI because it's going to reduce critical thinking. What would you say to that?
Mm-hmm. I think two things. One, whether we should keep making the AI stronger in reasoning or not. I definitely think so. I think we should go all the way with the AI intelligence. So whether from a development and research perspective, should we go there? Yes, go all the way, see what happens. Whether how we have our students and basically the rest of humanity interact with AI, I think it's a great tool. In some situations, you want your students to be fast and aided because the goal of that exercise or whatever is different. And sometimes you want them to reason for themselves. Mm-hmm. So you have to, you're the faculty, you know what the goal of your class is, what that particular session is, and whether AI is allowed as an aid to accelerate so you can skip that step and go to what you really want, the purpose. So basically it should be purpose-driven. And that applies to a lot of the answers in that realm. Yeah. So what's the purpose if you want, and how fast you want to get there? If you have all the time in the world, you want students to find it on its own, then by all means. But for us in math, the simplest example is the calculator. Sometimes some examples, we want them to sit down and push, their head around it, and sometimes no. So it depends on the purpose. Whether it makes us as a species less smart eventually because it will be doing all the reasoning for us, I think we have to be careful about that, and we have to think of our purpose. There are already some studies that are saying that humans' attention spans are smaller, critical thinking are less. So there are regions in our brains that we really needed for survival and intelligence and building our functional societies that we're not using as much anymore, and these are shrinking. So we have to be very careful on this at scale and graduating students who do not reason. The most scary example I've heard of in terms of education is there are the medical residents in hospital rotations on the floor. They're resident students, so they have ChatGPT on their phone on listen. They listen to the patient. The ChatGPT listens to the patients and gives them advice, and so they parrot the advice back. There is no reasoning there. There is no learning. So we have to be very careful with what the learning outcomes are and make sure that the AI does not make our students not have the learning outcomes.
Fascinating stuff. So AI and the economy. So AI is effectively, would it be accurate to say you view AI as a tool to be used?
It's a tool that soon might take over everything we do, and then what remains is what makes us human. What makes us human? You have to go back to that fundamental question. It's connection, love, care, family. It's these core things, because other than that, I really see AI able to do everything else we do. That anything that can be automated, AI can do.
And that to me is from an economic perspective, unit production, it sounds like a great idea. Mm-hmm. But from a more personal perspective, it sounds scary.
It's very scary. There will be job losses. There will be casualties. It's a very big disruption to the workforce, and we don't want to be, as a university, for example, training our students for jobs that would not matter, would not exist. There's so many jobs. I can throw two off my head, perhaps editors, for translators, data entry, data analysis, even even the big quantitative fields. For example, if you're a data scientist, soon unless you're really, really advanced, the AI can do everything with a prompt, so it's disruptive, and a lot of us are still clinging onto the idea that maybe that's not true. It's not disruptive, maybe.
Yeah.
Or this is how we did it, and this is the right way to do it. A lot of faculty can be stuck on that idea. We're not in the same world anymore, and we have to graduate students for their world, not for our world. So we have to be very attentive to that.
That's a profound statement. We have to prepare students for their world, or their future world, as opposed to the one that we live in or lived in.
Or believe it should be.
Yeah. And I guess that's where I'm sitting here wrestling with my personal feeling on AI and then the greater societal impact of AI. Because society, it seems, and as we've already talked about, and I want to come back to the economy, it's such a huge part of the economy. You see a rather large swath of the S&P 500 is AI generated. How that has progressed in the recent year or two has been primarily AI driven or artificial intelligence driven, as you talked about with the infrastructure. And it's moving at a speed that I'm not sure if we wanted to slow it down, it would. It's almost like a snowball that's running down. It's a big snowball, and it's already, that snowball is down the hill. There's no stopping it.
It is, and also the numbers are obscene, right? Like a billion is the new million, a trillion. So now we have 5 trillion evaluations. We have new startups that are valued in 150 billions, and you read their white paper, what do you have? Because this is not driven by customer demand, by real customer demand. It's driven by valuations, circular valuations. Like this is a company building the chips. This is a company using the chips. This is a company building the data centers. And they're all feeding each other and raising each other's valuations. But whether the customers outside are actually going to drive real revenue as opposed to projected revenue, that's a very different question. And we don't know in terms of the economy. I can talk a lot about the technology. In terms of the economy, it's all speculation.
Right.
There is external money being poured in as well, so that could sustain for a long time. Trillions from foreign countries. So we'll see. I mean, there's also the race. If China's pouring that much money, we have to pour more.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. So there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
But there's also advantages. It's good to build all these data centers. It's not good to suck all that energy. You have to. We don't have enough energy to sustain the demand, the upcoming demand. So we have to generate more energy, but then we have to make our AI models less energy consuming. So there's a lot of optimizations at all levels of the supply chain of this industry that need to be happening at this moment. And there is progress. There's even the talk about making the data centers in space. So they basically take energy from the sun and radiate heat out in the universe, in the cold universe. So there's all kinds of trying to solve all these problems. And there's the race with the return on investments for the economy. And we're all in it right now.
So literally from 30,000 feet or above, coming right back down. So as someone who doesn't know much about AI, let's talk about the general person in Harrisonburg, Virginia, or the surrounding area. What would be your message about AI to those individuals? Not even from the education perspective, but for the general populace.
If you want to benefit from it, think of what's the most annoying task that you do every day, you have to do every day, and think about, can it be automated? And if it can, then AI can help you with that. So you can use it to help yourself with your everyday life. Think you want to learn something you've never learned before and you don't want to pay for a university degree or a certificate. You don't have money. Just pay $20 and you can learn so much. It can guide you into relevant resources. It can talk to you in the most tone that you like. So there's a lot of benefit there that you can help yourself. Think really deeply on whether and honestly with yourself, whether your job can be automated or not. Because if it can and soon, then your job might be irrelevant soon, and that should not give you any hit to your dignity at all, because it happens. I'm going to talk about it will happen even to the mathematicians, even to people who, it's not whether you're the average person whether you have a university degree or not, or whether you're super advanced or not, it doesn't matter. If your job can be automated, it means two things. Either AI can help you finish it faster, be more productive, focus on things you want to learn and improve on, or you have to think about something different and start learning on how to do something different.
So I think about, there's going to be sectors that are hit harder. And I say this because when you say if things can be automated, and you're talking about usually cognitive tasks and tasks that can be done on a computer, yes?
Yes and no, because sometimes, say you are a construction worker, if you can have a robot, like put all the nails where they belong and you just sit down and have coffee. If it can be automated, whether physically with a machine or a drone. Drones are cheap. Or whether it can be automated with repetitive tasks or even decision-making processes. Like, say you're a data analyst, you get the data, you kind of clean it up, you look into patterns, you answer a question for your company. That can be done in a minute now with AI. So there's a lot of jobs that people are not thinking about. However, the CEO is thinking about.
Yeah.
So
maybe this one's just to make me feel better. What jobs would you say are pretty secure from the AI advancement? What would have you thought about? Because it seems like you've thought quite a bit about. Because actually, I was going to like a plumber. Like, there's no way I can be a plumber.
Yeah.
And because we're losing those in droves.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, it might be able to do that. Like, and maybe not all facets of it. But are there jobs that you think are AI proof?
I would say, first of all, I don't think we're at the level where it is at scale. So I would say we're easily 5 years from when all companies are AI is really embedded in them, and say robots are walking among us, in my opinion, that's even further. Because, there is the production. It's easy to produce prototypes. It's not easy to
Right.
produce at scale, and it's not cheap enough for it to be adopted at scale, right? So a prototype is expensive, but to make it cheap and deployable to everybody, that's a different question. So I would say we're a few years safe now, but imagine we're in a world where that happens.
Yeah.
Like everything is everything that can be automated is automated. AI is deployed everywhere. There are robots among us helping us with all kinds of work. What work would be relevant? Definitely work that has to do with the human connection and nursing, for example. I don't see a nurse substituted. A doctor, a surgeon might be. A nurse is different.
Holy smokes.
It's very different world, in my opinion. It would be think of maybe even kindergarten teachers, right? Like where you need that human guidance, right, and touch and carrying the child. There's a lot. It basically you have to really think at a very deep level what separates humans from machines. What separates humans from machines? Jobs that involve that will survive. What doesn't is probably gonna go. It's in people thought that reasoning and mathematics separated and language separated humans from machines, but now that's gone. So it's more of a deeper level, and so in a society like that, we have to adapt and maybe become better with each other and it is a new species that we're creating.
So if we create AI to do to automate a lot of the tasks, what are we doing in the future? And I legitimately mean that. Like, are we just sitting on the couch eating bonbons, or and it's cooking and it's
like
cleaning?
grapes.
Well, and that's where I
like the Greek philosophers.
Yeah, sure.
I think we are a very curious species and we're very ambitious and we think really big in the world. So I think we'll be designing amazing things, just like we designed these machines, and we might be using them to help us conquer different frontiers that we haven't before. Like, for example, what's in space, maybe build the big ships that make us survive no matter what, and to go to different stars. We might be designing. I think we're very good. That's another thing is, other than human connection and love and care, we are very creative and we can simulate all kinds of scenarios in our head way before we manifest them, and that's a big sign of human intelligence. Is we do counterfactuals, like what if I don't do this, what if I don't do that, what would happen? So we're still able to do that. So we would be designing all kinds of stuff that we didn't have time to think about or design when we were doing living in the post-industrial world where we're just part of a big machine, big process. So I find it freeing. We would be more free to do what we want. The question is, will we have the enough money? Will we survive economically? That big shift.
Yeah.
But if we do, then we have plenty of time to do more of what we're good at.
You said freeing. I'm thinking scared, because my version of life is very simple, and it's a plot of land and maybe some chickens and a dog and a cat, and there's a weight room in there somewhere. But just thoughts. Okay.
I love that version of life. Maybe that's what we'll all be free to do. It is freeing.
Almost like the frontier lifestyle. Like
Yes.
I there's some simplicity that I find with the frontier lifestyle, and I do think there are folks that are really ambitious in our society, and I think there's a wide swath that are insanely simple.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And it could be freeing in the sense of allowing you to live that simpler life without having to do something that you really never wanted to do. So, but if you are a person who loves your job and leads that simplicity, then your question would be, what in my job can AI take over?
Yeah.
Would it take over? And how can I still be purposeful?
Yeah.
And these kinds of questions, you'll find them within yourself.
Yeah.
You'll find their answer. Everybody has these answers within themselves, and everybody's different.
It sounds like there will need to be a large personal reflection in the next 5-10 years if this, that might create a different issue among us. But
Yes.
so how would you explain the difference between generative artificial intelligence and machine learning?
It's we've been touching on that all along. So to just put it concisely, machine learning are mathematical models that learn patterns from data without being explicitly programmed on how to do that. That's a very narrow mathematical construct that deals with data, with quantitative data most of the time. Okay, also language and stuff. But however, artificial intelligence is bigger than that. So machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence. AI has to learn patterns from data, but also has to make decisions, have to maybe choose, build, and use tooling. It has to reason. It has to explain itself. None of that is in machine learning. So machine learning is a narrow mathematical field, while artificial intelligence encompasses modeling everything that defines intelligence, including embodiment, behavior, consciousness, eventually, who knows, reproduction, God knows.
So when I say artificial intelligence, you're thinking broad scale, and I think most people are going to think ChatGPT, Copilot,
Yes.
those.
These are manifestations of artificial intelligence.
And that's like, if
That's
we're going
part
to use
of
an
it.
analogy, if we just got done with a rather large meal, if you will, that's like ChatGPT is a Hershey's Kiss.
Yes. However, it's a very accomplished Hershey's Kiss because it conquered language, which nobody thought would happen anytime soon. Language is very complicated to model in a machine, and it emerged. So that is a big feat in the AI community. So it's not to minimize the accomplishment of language models, generative language models.
My mind is just blown right now. Okay. One of the major concerns with machine learning is bias.
Yes.
How do researchers and developers work to detect or reduce bias in these models?
Yeah. The problem with a lot of deployed AI models that we all use now, we use them a lot because they're very useful. So we use them. The problem with them is none of us knows or has access to the exact data sets they were trained on. For example, a lot of them were trained on the whole internet, and that's full of biases, etc. So that's always going to be a problem. The bias in particular will always be a problem in the sense that even if you use a model that you're sure has been vetted and everything is working great, the moment they update the model, you don't know what happened. So these things change all the time. They're not static, which means that whoever is testing them for bias or deploying them in their systems, they have to constantly test for that. So it's always updated. The best way is to test it yourself on all kinds of edge cases that you can possibly think of, and have filters after the output if the model is not something you built. The other thing is it all depends on the cleanliness of the data. It's always the data. And So if you sometimes you get a big model and then you retrain it based on your own data, so that can help. The more access and control you have on the quality of your data, the better you can make sure that there is no biases. The other thing is you have to have the AI explain itself, explain its reasoning. For example, you have two candidates and the AI is evaluating an award for them. It chooses its candidate over the other, have the AI explain itself. Or if you have access to multiple models, run it by multiple models and have them all explain themselves. So it becomes more like how do you get rid of bias in any data set? It's the same principles apply. And you have to always be aware that the AI output is AI output. The owner of the model, if the owner is not you, then there's always possibility for that, and you have to be aware and constantly testing.
So it's the bias problem is akin to the security problem that we are constantly facing with whatever application we have to use to get into our bank account or get onto a JMU
Correct.
system. It's not a different skill set. It's just the same skill set within AI.
Within AI, exactly that. Yeah, it is a big problem, but the AI, for some applications, also you have to choose which applications do you want to. It's if it's a field that's prone to biases, you might think, well, I use the AI because it's more fair, or is it right? I mean, so humans can be super biased as well. I mean, we kind of copy the biases into the AI. So it's always again case by case basis, model by model basis. Make sure whatever goes into your systems is clean. And make sure your systems don't drift by using more and more data. Then the AI is learning as you use more data. You want to make sure that doesn't drift as well. So always testing, always bring it back to where you want it to be. Kind of like having an employee. It's not like you hire them, never train them again for anything. It's the same.
So what kind of problems or questions are best suited for AI or AI approaches? And then which ones are better left to humans?
Oh, wow. That's a rough one. I mean, we can ask AI anything. It's it's a very hard question for me to answer. I really can see AI doing everything. I'll always go back to uniquely human. What's uniquely human? And other than that, the AI can be like a very skilled assistant, if not a peer, actually, at this level. Even in research that's very difficult, like scientific research, solving the most deep physics problems, AI can help you with that now. So I really can't think of anything that I can think, a human can do this better.
Yeah.
Other than what makes us uniquely human.
What emerging trends in AI or machine learning excite you the most?
Good question. I would say solving science, solving mathematics. There are many questions that are very old, and they take a lot of time of human researchers to do. For example, to understand the field, they would spend time understanding the field. They would spend time reasoning, doing research, collecting data. And if all of that is compressed, imagine all our human knowledge is compressed very fast and reasoned on top of it, then we can discover so much. So I think even in math reasoning, we're at the point where the machine solving mathematics is. There's a lot of exciting stuff, but we might really all be out of jobs soon because, but also like medical discoveries, cure for cancer. There's so many amazing things that we need to accelerate, and we haven't been able to accelerate because somehow we made all our sciences siloed and too specialized. And the specialists in this field don't understand this field and the other way around, but they need each other to progress both fields. So all of that AI can solve very easily. And there's so many initiatives now. I think the newest one is the Mission Project. There was a new executive order from the White House about consolidating all of the Department of Energy research infrastructure, all the labs, all the data points, everything, all the researchers, whatever. And imagine consolidate all of that knowledge and having AI reason on top of it. You can do so much, and you can answer. Maybe we're gonna have much more efficient energy generation. Maybe water supply will be evenly distributed. Maybe food. There's so many good. So all that stuff excites me about AI.
If you were to predict one major way AI reshapes the higher ed landscape in the next 5 years, what would that be?
In the next 5 years, I would say we would still have universities and we would still all have jobs. In the next 10 years or so, the university has to rethink its purpose and how it delivers its information and its value. It's like the value proposition of a university will be different in the age of AI than without the age of AI.
When you say value proposition, walk me
what-
through how you're calculating that.
It means that students come to university, they pay money, and they take 4 or 5 years of their life, and at the end of it, they expect to be specialized in something or useful for a work that other people who did not specialize in that cannot do. And that's a value proposition, the current value proposition of a university. And of course, learning about critical thinking. I mean, that's pursuit of truth, all that stuff. Pursuit of knowledge, civic engagement, all that stuff you learn at the university. That's the current value proposition. But in a world where most of these jobs might not, if the student graduates and finds that their learning is not useful in the society that they graduated into, or if they're not needed in the workforce, then there is a mismatch between the value proposition and the value actually created. And so they have to, universities, if a lot of students start experiencing that, whether their degree is useful or not, or they graduate into a world where everything they learned is automated, then universities will have to rethink, what am I why am I here, and how should we all shift to keep creating value for the new generation and graduate them into being purposeful, productive, valuable participants in the society. So there's a lot that will change.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but a lot will change. And then a lot of people are even wondering about that even now with all the online classes, with the free courses online, with the certificate system. So it's not like this conversation is not happening with much less technology and much less automation, let alone full-scale automation that's in the future. So we have to always adapt.
Yeah.
And provide real value to our students. Again, we have to graduate them into the future, not into our world.
Yeah, I think the value, I read a book, it's called The Go-Giver, and it's a very simple book. It's like 100 pages. It's very, very simple. But the whole premise of the book is provide value.
Yes.
And I do think regardless of what we do and how we do it, we have to focus on providing value for the future, as opposed to, as you suggested, not the world we used to live in or the world we think we should live in. It's the world we are living in.
Exactly. And we have to have empathy for our students because they are living in a very accelerated world that none of us had to deal with at all growing up. So we have to think about how they experience the world and what their aspirations are and try to guide them toward fulfilling these aspirations. So that's our goal. I see it, whether with technology, without technology. That's really what I feel we can give them. Its ability to to chart their own ways and have the confidence to do it with what they learned in the university.
If you could give faculty one takeaway about AI, something to keep in mind as the field evolves, what would it be?
Use it. Think about your own field, how AI will change it, if it's able to change it. Maybe your own field is fully immune. Maybe you go to other countries and have missionary, whatever it is you do, maybe that's not impacted. But always think about how the technologies impact your field. New technologies change societies all the time. Go back in all of human history. From the Stone Age to the Bronze Age, all of those technologies change human society. So, and you are not immune. And don't think that because you have a PhD, because you do research in this field, that it might end up being, all useless. And so think about it. Think about how you will adapt, and think about how you want AI to be used in the classroom. Whether with it, without it, always assume that students are using it, but then think about how you're going to guide them toward the actual learning outcomes of your courses, whether with or without AI. So think about that, and in terms of your research, use AI. It's super helpful. It accelerates your research like nothing else. Be honest about using AI and how you used it, just like for your students. And also think ethically about it, in the sense that we are all living in a world where all of this is happening in real time. It gives us an opportunity, all of us collectively, to shape it. So if you have good ideas about the ethics of this field and deploying it safely, humanely, all of that, please share these ideas and share them openly. You think, oh, some people are more advanced in AI than me. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's in it together. Your opinion is valuable, so talk about it and share it with everybody. I hope that answers, I think.
You did. Thank you so much, Hala. That's it for today's episode of the CFI Faculty Lounge Podcast. A big thank you to our guests, the CFI Ops team, Sarah Rush, Via Chapin, and most importantly, you, our listeners. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a colleague. To stay updated on new podcast episodes and other faculty development opportunities, click the link in the description to join our listserv. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time for more meaningful conversations about teaching and faculty life.